Hello and welcome to EdYou Pulse, your weekly roundup of events, developments, and conversations in the education sector. I'm Caroline Samuel, and on this week's episode, we highlight the continued support for NGSA and CSEC students, and we learn about autism in observance of Autism Awareness Month. All that and more on this week's episode of EdYou Pulse. Stay with us. For years, you've tuned in to EdYou FM on 99.7 FM for education, entertainment, and edutainment. But now, we're making the big switch.
Switch your dial from 99.7 FM to 99.5 FM.
Same edutaining mission to educate communities across Guyana.
EdYou FM, now on 99.5 FM in regions 3, 4, and 5.
Don't wait, make the switch.
More than 50 primary teachers in Region 7 received intensive academic support as the Ministry of Education, through the National Center for Education Resource Development NCERD, conducted a series of training sessions in Bartica and Camarang. From the 24th to the 27th of March, the sessions equipped educators with practical strategies in mathematics, English, social studies, and science. The training focused on the National Grade 6 Assessment, NGSA exam questioning techniques, content requirements, elimination strategies, and the effective use of context clues. Additionally, grade 11 students at DC Cesar Fox Secondary School were engaged on school-based assessments, benefiting from advice and tips as they approach the upcoming CSEC exams. Now, the ministry has also intensified its efforts to improve results in mathematics. Math tents have been set up in various locations to guide students through practice papers leading up to the exam. Here's how the initiative is going.
Some of the students, when they began the program, what we found is that they had some challenges in terms of computation and so on, but we were able to work with them and we can see improvement throughout the few weeks that we've been working. I would want to say that such a program should have started a very long time ago, because I can see that it's helping. And one of the things is that we're looking forward to seeing improvement at CSEC Math. So it begins right here at the primary level. And so I'm really glad to be a part of this program to help our students to develop and become better math students.
At Friendship, this morning was quite nice. Seeing children working in their books, putting down their workings. Some who were not too strong, they got the correction that they needed. They're helping each other. And the teachers are walking around, engaging with the children. So it shows that the commitment between teacher as well as child and parent is alive and active, and this works. So parents who have not sent their children this week, please send your child. We still have time, and the more practice they have, the better they will be for the exam. Maths is the key to everything. In high school, I wasn't the best math student. I didn't really like maths. But I passed it because I had to pass it. If you want to go to university, if you want to advance yourself in any way, you need to have math. And the way we approach math is changing. There's a general fear of math, but from what I would have seen happening in classrooms, not only today, but generally, teachers are working to help change that narrative. And we need to do that collectively. The key to passing maths is practice. It's not cramming. You cannot cram it because you will forget it. It's practice, it is making the mistakes, and more importantly, taking the correction after that mistake is made. Where true learning happens. And there's no shame. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. The classroom is the safest place, the best place to make all your mistakes, because you have the guidance of your expert teacher who cares about you. And that teacher will help you to master topic by topic and eventually the subject in completion. So get on board with us, parents. Do not make math sound to be an insurmountable mountain. It is something that every child will be able to pass once they practice and they come along the journey with us.
Calling all grade 11 students across Guyana, this is your chance to boost your math skills for free. The Ministry of Education is bringing Math 10s to locations across the country every Saturday until May 9th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Get support from trained math specialists, build your confidence, and practice real CSEC past paper questions. All you need to bring is your writing materials, a notebook, and a willingness to learn. Find the 10 closest to you and take the next step towards success. Don't miss out. Your future starts now.
April is Autism Awareness Month, and World Autism Awareness Day is observed on April 2 every year. This United Nations observance is aimed at raising awareness about autism spectrum disorder and demonstrating that individuals living with autism can lead fulfilling and successful lives. This year's theme, Autism and Humanity, Every Life Has Value, affirms the dignity and worth of all people with autism as part of our shared human future. At a time when misinformation about autism is resurfacing, this year's theme is a call to action to recognize the inherent dignity, equal rights, and unconditional worth of everyone, including people living with autism. Now, autism spectrum disorder, often shortened to just autism, is a disability which affects the development of the brain. Hence, people with autism handle information differently from their typically developing peers. Autism doesn't have one specific cause, but it is believed to be caused by a number of factors such as possible genetic mutations, advanced parent age, extreme prematurity, and low birth weight. More research is being conducted to figure out how these and other factors affect the likelihood of children being diagnosed with autism.
When many people hear the term autism or autism spectrum disorder, they often imagine a narrow and sometimes misleading picture shaped by stereotypes or media portrayals. However, autism is not a single story or a uniform experience. It is a spectrum, meaning it presents itself differently in each individual. Autistic individuals, including children, may experience differences, and we would have heard them before, in communication, social interaction, and sensory processing. However, these differences are not deficits. Rather, they represent alternative ways of experiencing and engaging in the same world we share. So, what is autism? Autism spectrum disorder, or sometimes it's called ASD, or sometimes it's called autism, is a neurodevelopmental condition that means it affects how the brain processes and develops information. It can influence how individuals experience and understand language in communication, how they interact and connect socially with others, how they respond to routines, patterns, and focus interests, and how they experience sensory input such as sounds, light, textures that we heard earlier. Now, understanding these differences allows us not only to raise awareness, but to foster inclusion, empathy, and meaningful support in every space we share. So, why do we call it a spectrum? As we heard earlier, anybody can remember? So it's not a fixed single condition. Rather, it exists along a continuum. Now, this means that individuals on the spectrum may experience varying levels of support needs. Some may require significant assistance in daily living. Others may function independently, and many demonstrate a combination of strengths and challenges across different areas. Now, historically, the understanding of autism has evolved significantly. In 1911, the German psychiatrist Eugene Bleuler first introduced the term autism, describing it within the context of schizophrenia. And we know what schizophrenia is. His early interpretation characterized autistic thinking in ways that we now recognize was limited because it's not schizophrenia or people behaving, as Miss Sonia said, mad, right? So, over time, researchers and child psychologists began to challenge and refine these views. Influential figures such as Jean Piaget and Michael Rutter contributed to a broader shift in psychological and psychiatric thinking, moving from isolated cases of schizophrenia to studies of more comprehensive, evidence-based, and epidemiological approaches. Later, Hans Asperger explained that the understanding of autism by identifying patterns of behavior in individuals who demonstrated strong cognitive abilities alongside social differences, right? So it moved from a place of schizophrenia from 1911 to persons with strong cognitive abilities. However, they are socially awkward. Now, conditions such as Asperger disorder, as we're seeing on the screen there, Rett's disorder, and childhood disintegrative disorder were all once classified separately. However, they all now are formed under the unified umbrella as autism spectrum disorder. Now today, autism can be reliably identified in early childhood, sometimes as early as 18 months. Now, early indicators may include limited eye contact, reduced social smiling or joyful expressions, minimal use of gestures such as pointing or waving, delayed or absent babbling and speech, limited back and forth interaction. Now, in adults, it shows up as having obsessive interests, emotional regulation difficulties, a strong desire for predictability, and social difficulties. In some cases, there may be a loss of previously acquired language or social skills. However, it is necessary to note that concern typically arises when a combination of these signs is observed instead of one or two isolated cases. So sometimes we might have an individual that is just not very social. Or we might have a child that is not speaking at maybe at 2 or 3 years old. Now, it doesn't give us the right to say that that child is autistic with just that one isolated case. There must be several signs for us to say that maybe this child is showing signs of autism. Now, what are the factors that are associated with autism? So we have genetic factors, and genetics play a significant role, accounting for a substantial portion of cases. This may involve specific genetic variations or mutations. Now, the presence of certain genetic conditions such as Fragile X syndrome or Rett syndrome. We have also family history, where if one child is diagnosed with autism, more than likely another sibling will be diagnosed. And then we have environmental and prenatal factors such as parental age. Now, increased likelihood associated with older parents, particularly after the age of 35. We have prematurity, where birth before 26 weeks of gestation or very low birth weight. We also have pregnancy complications, where certain maternal health conditions, including infections, diabetes, or obesity during pregnancy. And then we have prenatal environment, where exposure to specific medications such as valproic acid or elevated levels of environmental pollutants during pregnancy. Now, while autism may present certain challenges, it is equally important to recognize the strengths it brings. Many individuals on the spectrum demonstrate exceptional abilities in areas such as music, art, mathematics, and science. They often offer unique perspectives, creativity, and innovative thinking. With the right support system in place, individuals with autism can thrive and contribute meaningfully in classrooms, workplace, and communities.
As we continue to observe Autism Awareness Month, we share the inspiring story of 10-year-old Damari, celebrating his journey, his strengths, and the power of understanding and inclusion. Here's the journey through the voice of his mom, Ranella Cameron.
Damari was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and it's a neurological disorder. I don't want to say it's a disability, but yeah, it's a neurological thing, so it's more in the brain. Different persons, different stims. I used to blame myself a lot, thinking, okay, maybe I didn't take enough vitamins. Maybe I fought too much because I was really miserable during my pregnancy. But, I used to self-blame, but then I realized that it's not something that we as parents could have detected whilst the child was growing up. It's not something that, there wasn't anything different that we could have done if the child would have already been being grown in the stomach with the neurological disorder. Damari initially was born in Suriname, so we lived there for a few years. And the teachers, one of his teachers, his first daycare that he went to, she would have asked me a question like, this child is already approaching 2. Why he's not talking? Why he's not saying anything? And then he went to a different school, and the teacher was telling me things like, oh, maybe he's just a late speaker. So upon observing him, I realized maybe he's still baby babbling. So I took him to a specialist, and that's when we found out that he was diagnosed. While Damari and I are in public, they would have parents who would come to me like, oh, he's autistic, my son is too, I don't know what to do. And I would always tell them, the first thing you need to do is to get the child, be seen by a specialist, get the child diagnosed first. So I know at CPC, that's when we came back again, I took him, that was the 3rd evaluation he would have had. And I took him there, and from then on, then I would have known what steps to take, which school I needed to get him into, how I can further help him. Damari is very high-spirited, full of energy, full of life. But mostly, once he has tablet, internet, and food, he's okay. He would just be in his own world. But I don't know if I'm also on the spectrum, but I'm very sensitive to noise. So when he stims, it makes me feel overstimulated. But then as a mother, I still have to regulate myself in order to deal with him. So regularly with Damari, if it requires him sitting still, I'm not going to go, because he's not going to sit still. He will go, touch, move. He'll always be active because he's a sensory seeker. Climbing and all of that. You would find some people saying like, oh, beat him. If you beat him, put him to sit down, he's going to get it. But that doesn't work because he's not a neurotypical child. And sometimes I try to explain, okay, Damari is not neurotypical. So what may work for a neurotypical child will not work for him. When I first found out about the diagnosis, I was a bit hurt. Like I said, I self-blame a lot. But then I had to snap myself out of it and think of ways in which how I could help him going forward, because a lot of times you see autistic children who become adults are very dependent on whoever their guardian or parent is. So in that sense, I had to snap out of it and try to make him independent. So things like teaching him to brush his teeth, dressing himself, trying to prepare his own food. Not by preparing him, like maybe butter his bread with a bread knife and stuff like that. He does do it. And with the help of the school that he goes to David Rose Special Needs, shout out to his teacher, they reinforce that. So we work hand in hand to get Damari to be self-sufficient rather than depending on me heavily for everything. Get the child diagnosed, and then stop self-blaming. See what steps you can take going forward to have the child become independent, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be living forever. We're not going to be here forever. So we would want them to be able to live a life that they are safe and they can be able to do things for themselves. One of the things that I would like to see more is more awareness being raised for people living with ASD, because sometimes you would have persons in public spaces, they're not aware of persons with ASD and they shun him. I've had taxi drivers refuse to take me because he makes a lot of noise, but that's his stimming. So other than that advice I'm giving to parents and not self-blaming themselves, what I would like to see as a country is for more awareness, maybe more ads, more reels, more workshops being done in the workplace, because not only are there children with ASD, there are adults with ASD, and some adults are as well undiagnosed because they're not even aware that this is what they have. Patience is key. Persons with ASD they require a lot of patience. I am learning as I grow with Damari. I'm learning because I never used to be quite a patient person. And as a teacher, I have patience for my neurotypical kids, but for my own son, it requires me counting. So patience is key, and continue to show them the love that they need. And you need to have a village. Even if it's not your own family, you need to reach out to other persons or maybe other parents who have children living with ASD, because that will be your community. They will understand you as best as they can because they're living in it just as you. But you need to have some, because sometimes it do become overwhelming, especially if you're doing it alone, it do become overwhelming. But at the same time, once you have persons who understand and support you, it becomes easier.
It's Easter time, and in Guyana, if the weather permits, that means we fly kites. Sharing with us some much-needed safety tips and reminders to ensure that we have a fun-filled, incident-free Easter holiday is Mr. Kulanand Prasad, officer with the Occupational Health and Safety Unit of the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated.
Fly kites in open areas, away from power lines, because we all know the danger. Well, if your kite gets hooked to the power line, the line of the kite can become energized, and the ports at the other end can be burned or electrocuted. If you have your kites and they're entangled with power lines, we ask you to don't try to remove it. Cut it, let it remain, and inform the power company so we can afterwards go and remove it so and prevent any further problems with the lines. And so I can remember being a little child growing up flying kites. One of the activities tried to get it over the highest power line, so I tend to support the kite from falling, but understanding the whole technical aspect behind it now, those things are very dangerous because again, the lines, and most of these high lines are high voltage lines between 13,800 volts to 69,000 volts. The lines can easily conduct electricity, high voltage electricity, which result in serious injuries or even death. There are some times we tend to do picnics, and so there are a lot of open spaces around, and some of the open spaces we have transformers, we have substations and those kind of things, right? We tend to, at least parents, because of these hazards and tend to be away, right? Keep children away. Although these places are fenced most time, right? You tend to keep children away because high voltage, with talking about high voltages, you don't have to go and make contact directly with it before you can be energized. As long as you're within a magnetic field, we refer to it as a magnetic field. the various are higher voltage, the larger the magnetic field. As I within the magnetic field, you can be electrocuted. There's also cases whereby fallen wires. From time to time, you might have maybe there's an accident or some arcing that caused the wire to burst and fall in the ground or severed. When these wires fall in the ground, the area around there is become energized. So if you're within the area, you can be easily be electrocuted. So we tend towards, if we see things like this, remain far, inform the power company so we can come and have same be rectified. Just touch on some of the gatherings during this holiday season. A lot of families and other persons may be engaged in social activities, family gathering, reunions, etc. And one thing is, say if you use electricity at home, you tend to have more than one electrical equipment plugged in to one point that you refer to as overload. And as I overload a point, it tend to get heated. You overload the line burn up, and it can result in a fire. And also, if you're touching it at the same time, the stray current will get to you, and you can be electrocuted. Keeping items away from water. We are at home. You have different festive season. You may be having beverages, cold beverages. Your hand is wet, and you tend to hold on electrical equipment or electrical point. Right? Those things are water and electricity is a no-no. We are supposed to be careful whilst using outdoor electrical equipment. Ensure that your cords and tools are in good working condition before use. Watch overhead lines that carry long objects. Sometimes because of you got to set up a tent or you have use a ladder, but there's overhead line is present. If a ladder gets in contact, especially the metal ladders, they get in contact with any electrical equipment, right? You would be energized, and the person at the end, they will be executed. We had cases like that previously. Had to do investigations. Also tents, these metal frame tents, when you set them up, ensure that they are away from power lines. Not just touch it, but in a safe distance, because as I explained earlier, there's a magnetic field. As long as the magnetic field, you get onto the thing, and as I rest on the ground, the phase would go directly to the ground. So also the entire frame of the tent will be energized. So anybody touching it can be shocked. If there's any unsafe electrical condition is present in the area, you notice sparking lines, damaged poles, exposed wires, any hazardous condition, you ask you to make contact with the power company and report same immediately. The number to contact is 226-2600. And there's other lines like 2600, 2601, 2602, etc. In terms of illegal connections, as again, during these social gatherings, persons tend to engage in illegal connections, whereby most of these gatherings would involve music, and the larger music require more power. So rather than using it through your regular points, which is hazardous, the people tend to climb directly on the lines, the secondary lines or the service lines. Those things are very dangerous because the person doing the clamping, right, they can get shocked if they don't have the requisite safety gears, and other person as well, if the lines are not leaking. And so because inspection these tools and equipment and job part is very important, which most persons tend to overlook. For both guardian and children, we ask you to, because they're all risks or all electrical risks that is present during this Easter season, whether you're having social gathering, whether you're flying kites, all your activities should be directed away from high voltage lines or away from power lines. Ensure there are no illegal connections. Ensure that you play in a safe manner, because at the end of the day, we need to have a safe and productive Easter weekend.
Here's a recap of this week's stories. More than 50 teachers in Region 7 benefited from targeted training sessions aimed at strengthening NGSA preparation, while Grade 11 students received valuable guidance for their upcoming CSEC exams. Meanwhile, the ministry's Math Tent initiative continues to provide hands-on support to students, helping to boost confidence and performance in mathematics. As we observe Autism Awareness Month, we highlighted the importance of understanding autism spectrum disorder and embracing this year's theme, Autism and Humanity, every life has value. And with Easter in the air, we brought you important kite flying safety tips to ensure a fun and accident-free holiday for everyone. And that's all for this week's edition of EdYou Pulse. Thanks for watching. Join us again next week.